What you just heard was a backwards audio recording of the ultra-famous Led Zeppelin song Stairway to Heaven. It was one of the main verses, but reversed. The audio was backwards, meaning you shouldn't have heard any words or talking. But did you? Did you make out intelligible voices? What about words? I'm wondering if any of you will have heard the word Satan either. Well, maybe you did. And maybe that's because there is a very real script for the backwards recording of the Hedgerow verse that talks about Satan and Satanism. Don't believe me? Well, here is that same section again, this time with lyrics to help you follow. It sounded much more real that time, right? You almost definitely would have at least heard the word Satan, and you will have most likely been able to follow the pretty terrifying lyrics. Something stinks here, right? How the hell could that much scripture be a coincidence? Okay, so the odd Satan here and there might be down to chance, but this was a full, relatively well-written paragraph about someone's love of Satan. Well, what if I told you that you just experienced a complete mind trick, and what you just heard was gibberish? Technically, the truth behind what is going on here is a cross between the two. Yes, you just listened to a lot of random gibberish, but no, you're not crazy or alone in hearing that creepy verse. What this could be is an example of the crypto audio technique known as backmasking, a means of hiding secret messages in backwards recording of music. Most of the time, this is deliberate and was popularised by one of the biggest bands ever in the second half of the 20th century. However, sometimes people hear messages when none were intended, and this isn't a small volume of people either. Thousands hear roughly the same Satanic verse in Stairway to Heaven, despite Led Zeppelin never intending to cause this. Today, we're going to be investigating the mystery of backmasking, what it is, where it came from, and why it happens. Regardless of how intentional the satanic messages you just heard are, what I'm about to show you is very real and very scary indeed. Backmasking is a very real practice in the abstract music production industry. It is a technique where music artists and audio engineers deliberately hide secret messages in backwards recordings of songs. How this works is by deciding what you want to say, recording it, playing it backwards, and identifying sounds that sound like basic words and building a contextual sentence around it. That way, when the real song is played backwards with this new message sung properly, the intended secret code can be heard with only slight distortion and can be easily picked up and deciphered. Such a practice was popularised by the famous music group The Beatles in 1966, with their release of the album Revolver. Throughout this album were a number of strange lyrics to be heard, and there are any number of online videos exposing the lyrical webbing, but an example of real, intentional backmasking can be found in the song Revolution 9. When played backwards, the words "We buried Paul" can be heard repeatedly. This was a deliberately backmasked message added by the band when speculation and rumours about Paul McCartney's supposed death surfaced. Since this point, backmasking has been a very niche technique for delivering unique messages in a logical fashion and has been used for a number of purposes. Some use it meaningfully. British heavy metal band Judas Priest released an album named Defenders of the Faith. In the song Love Bites, you can hear a lyric about love biting in the dead of night. Why? Because the band wanted a creative way to enhance their lyrics. If what they're singing about is tangible from several different perspectives, then subconsciously we may enjoy or take more away from the song. Backmasking has also been used for comedy too. A famous use appeared in the popular US cartoon comedy The Simpsons in the episode New Kids on the Block, when Bart forms a boy band under a fake music producer. Before long, Lisa discovers that the songs being sung by Bart's band have subliminal backmasked messages in them. Ivan Etniage was backwards for "Join the Navy," implying the US Navy was subtly using modern music to recruit future Marines from the public. On the subject of backmasking for comical effect, in the Pink Floyd song Empty Spaces, a reversed recording will actually contain the words "Congratulations, you have discovered the secret message." However you perceive this, know that many people have been doing this deliberately for a number of reasons in the last 60 years. That being said, a common thing that emerges in order to mask was satanic messages. The band Slayer have an album named Hell Awaits, and the backmasked version of the intro track will utter the words "Join us" several times. Cults, Satanism and sacrilegious themes are as old as backmasking itself. The problem spiraled out of control, however, in the early 80s, when people began hearing more than they were intended to, hearing very real, disturbing messages where none were ever intended. But how? How can thousands of people hear the same message in popular backwards songs if none was written or intended? Well, the answer lies deep-rooted in neuroscience, and I imagine Led Zeppelin would have wished that people knew this back in the early 80s. Remember the song I played backwards for you at the beginning of the video? That song is Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin, widely regarded as one of the greatest songs of all time by millions, and so naturally it has been listened to and enjoyed every way in its time. However, in 1982 the Trinity Broadcasting Network and its then host Paul Crouch ran a story claiming to have found secret messages in numerous popular songs, Stairway to Heaven being one. What was found was a verse about Satan that I played for you at the start, and it sounded pretty real, right? Well, Led Zeppelin never meant for this to happen. They themselves ignored the claims, but their record label, Swan Song Records, avidly denied the claims, responding by saying that their music was intended for forward interpretation only. Even Eddie Kramer, an audio engineer for Zeppelin, called the claims utterly ridiculous. Stairway to Heaven had quickly become the most infamous backmasked song of all time, but entirely by accident. Nonetheless, action was planned on even a lawful level. Californian Assemblyman Phil Wyman proposed a state law shortly after requiring warnings of potential misinterpretations of record copies, and soon after, the California State Assembly held a hearing on the topic to decide if legal action should be taken. In this hearing, Stairway to Heaven was played backwards as a shining example of the potential dark side of otherwise exemplary music. However, William Yarrell, an unofficial neuroscientific researcher, proposed the theory that this controversy may not have been intentional and that, in fact, the brain was responsible for the miscommunication. With the overly analytical ability to decipher and identify inaudible information in unnerving noise. And how right he was. But why? Stairway to Heaven was not written with any malicious intentions, yet the main verse has been interpreted the same way by thousands of people. So what is going on with the brain to cause this? Simon Singh is a scientist and mathematician who performs a tour talk named The Big Bang. In it, he covers astrophysics and neuroscience as two main features. I myself have in fact seen this talk performed live, and I can tell you it was incredibly eye-opening and interesting, and really inspired me to look more into the subject. Essentially, Simon does to his audience exactly what I did to you at the beginning of the video. He plays Stairway to Heaven on a blank screen and almost nobody hears anything, but crucially after, he repeats the recording with a lyrical stimulus to guide the audience, and suddenly almost everyone hears the verse. So why is this? Well, basically, your brain is looking into deciphering information and hidden details that could help preserve your life all the time. This is a similar reason to why humans can identify angry expressions twice as fast as happy ones among a crowd of people. Your brain is looking for hidden information, especially on unnerving topics that lead your intuition to kick in. It's a fact of your biology, almost like a runtime survival instinct. But sometimes, especially when incentivized with guidance, your brain can be too clever for its own good. With lyrical guidance, you will hear what you are supposed to hear, and in this case the brain is more overactive. How many of you found listening to the backwards music creepy? I know I did, and as a result your brain goes above and beyond to gather information that could help identify potential danger in this unusual situation it's been presented with. But chiefly, you will hear what you were given as a stimulus, because what those backward lyrics sound like isn't actually related to Satan or dark themes. At the start, I could have given you a script that made the lyrics sound vaguely about pizza or something stupid, and you would have heard it. Thus why, while many know the messages in Stairway to Heaven, there are so many little variations of words and insignificant lyrics that all sound correct when you read them while listening. When the Trinity Broadcasting Network went searching for the satanic messages in foul play in music, they were incentivized by words like Satan, hell, and pronouns like he or him, and they found what they were looking for as they correlated these target words to noises in the backmasked recordings, as subconsciously fabricated sentences around key, clear sounds like Satan, sad, and in this song's case, 666. I imagine some of you might still be having trouble understanding this, and so we're going to be doing something never before done on conspiracy cases, a live demonstration. Bittersweet Symphony is another one of the greatest songs ever and one of my all-time favourite pieces of music. What is important to note here though is that it has never been linked to satanic messages or backmasking. Essentially, this is a clean song. See for yourself, here is a small section of absolute unintelligible gibberish from the backwards verse. What I did for this live demonstration was I spent 5 to 10 minutes going through the song, essentially looking for trouble. If I had used a headset and spent more time, I could have probably written an entire backward script for you, but I feel the small, easy to pick up quotes I've come up with will suffice. Once again, Bittersweet Symphony has no malice backward lyrics, and yet here are some very creepy interpretations of some of the verses. How was that? Obviously, the majority of those clips were utter rubbish, but do you see how easy it is to mislead people? I spent 10 minutes max writing some barely plausible translations to play to you, but you will have most likely followed it precisely given you heard specific words clearly like people, persistent, mystery and submissive. All I did was listen for sounds with an open mind, and I heard some of those trigger words I've just listed, and I built very vaguely relevant sentences around them. It was easy to do and could have been done with any song. By trying to determine clear adjectives and pronouns, this technique combined with the power of suggestions make for one creepy interpretation. Maybe you weren't fooled by this and you didn't hear any of the lyrics I proposed clearly, but I'm willing to bet that most of you did. And even if you didn't, I think we can all consider the issue of just how easily the human mind can be led astray. All I have done throughout this video is put simplistic lyrical stimuli before you and played you unintelligible sounds, and you have heard what was intended clear as day. Now you know this, just think, what if companies, adverts and the governments were using subliminal techniques like this on you to influence your opinions on things like political views? This, in my opinion, is how religion has worked throughout the ages too, a controlling ideology of proposed themes leading you to guided conclusions on certain out-of-this-world issues. The human brain is the most powerful computer known to man, but it's also one of the easiest to manipulate, exploit and hack, and backmasking is one such technique. A spurious musical technique popularised in the 60s, but was an idea that became embellished by the human mind, on a mission to keep us safe from harm. If you want to see this in action more often, take any current chart hit and try listening to it backwards. I doubt there's a single song you won't be able to retrieve at least something, if you try hard enough. I thank you very much for watching and I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, please smash that like button. I'll be making conspiracy cases more frequently in 2018, so be sure to keep an eye out. If you're new around here, please consider subscribing as it really helps the channel and helps me out. Thanks a lot guys, I'll see you all soon.